Hello there and welcome to the No Script Show. This is a video follow-up from our podcast, episode 23. That was called Are We Writing the Head? You can find that at noscript.show/2323. Here, though, we're looking at the code used in the No Script Show's head tag and links for what we are showing over at noscript.show/learn/14. So 14. I'll put that link on the screen in a moment. So if you are watching this on YouTube or something like that, you'll be able to get that. But hello, David. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm good.
Good.
We might as well bring the show notes up on this one straight away because
Okay.
there's not many of them. We'll just go and look at our head here. So in some ways, I think we're following up on that chapter that we had last time with Paul Lacey on design systems. And we're trying to kind of put something together that's a design system as we go through these components. And here, I just thought I'd share this kind of early start of how we're kind of chopping up this site. So people can look at it and go, well, either take inspiration from it or find errors with it and let us know, which is it's more likely to be the latter. But so what I've done is I've put our site, which is an Eleventy site, on GitHub. So I'll just go over there and you can poke around in the code that we have. So our site was taken from the Eleventy base blog, and I've kind of been messing around with it since then. So lots changed. But if you go into, whether is that a link there to our repository, and you go into the include section, into layouts and into partials, we'll see we've got a head nunjugs file over here. And when you're in here, you can actually go in there and use their own editor, which I've done. So I'll go over to the page here, and your setup might look slightly different because you can bring in whatever extensions you like.
Okay.
This is a dark mode. And this is what I thought we'll try and do with as we get into sort of these sort of components. You wouldn't think of the head as a component because it's not something that's seen, but I'm treating it like that. And I'm thinking with our other site that we have, which you call the intrinsic framework, it's kind of a jotting pad for bits of code that I might want to copy and paste, or as a way of checking that when I build new sites and do stuff. So I thought I would try and combine it and put it all in this one document here in the section, and then put links into it. So as we were talking about in the first audio session on this, talking about heads, we were influenced by Harry Roberts' talk, which was saying how you can structure your header. So I've got a link here, so anyone can just go and follow the link here and bring up the details here that we've got here. Now this will just be a kind of running document as someone kindly listened to our episode on accordions, and we had an issue that I'd never solved in the CSS, which was about the little triangles on the details, yeah, and that you couldn't hide it from Safari. And this person came back with the solution. So
There was a way of doing it. Very nice.
There was. So the same is for anybody else who might want to listen to this. I mean, we're learning as we go with all of this. So I've just put in here, I mean, it's worth just taking a quick look because we skimmed over in the audio session about Harry Roberts' talk. There is the link so you can listen to him. It's about an hour long, I think. And there is this sort of guide here to what you might want. So I only mentioned the certain things that we use, but this is the exact order that he suggests that we put things in. So it includes other things that we might not have mentioned, where you might put pre-connect, where you might put asynchronous JavaScript. We've got none of that running in our site, and where we might put the import. So there's all the order there. And that's formed the basis of when I'm putting something in the head, I'll look at this first and go, which order is it going to go on where we're going to put it in our head?
I suppose that's kind of immutable as well. That's not really going to change over time, that document, is it? What you see there is going to be, until some major thing happens, that's going to be good for a decade or more. Yeah,
I would have thought so, unless something changes in there. I guess things are changing all the time. I mean, a lot of these pre-connects, I just wonder, I haven't got a policy yet, but I think with all that, I forgot what it's called, synchronous loading, is it called that? You might remember. I've just mentioned it.
Are you talking about the CSF, the acronym of the
And no, talking about the fact that you can preload pages.
Yes, I think synchronous loading was what we said. I
synchronous,
can't remember.
yeah.
Let's go with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Google thing. It's only in Google at the moment, but it might take off, and that might change maybe.
Oh no, you're thinking of speculative loading.
That's the one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, speculative. I knew it was wrong. Yeah, so that might change things like here, where you mark things up, but otherwise,
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, for those who didn't see those who did listen to the audio and listening to this, one thing I didn't mention is about schema markup, because I was a little bit, because it's a kind of script in there, but I assumed it would follow his rule that you generally put all your urgent stuff at the top of your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those three key things that we need, like the page title, that we need something on our viewports over there, and that we need a character set on the top. And pretty much when we get to the CSS and the JavaScript, there's an order depending on how they load. But the one thing that I hadn't thought about, because it's not mentioned in this talk, was about using schema markup, because it's contained in the script. Where does that go?
Oh,
I double checked it, and I assumed it would go in with your SEO, which should be, that's last, basically. Unless it's the title, everything that's SEO goes last in your head.
okay. Yeah.
And that's the case here, because it's not synchronous scripting as such. It's not going to hold anything back, so it can go last.
Right. I'm just going to quickly read into the podcast. If you're watching this, the audio podcast that we had, the notes for that were at this URL. So noscript.show/2323. I said it at the top, but I'll put it on the screen. And then the bits and pieces for this one, noscript.show/learn/1414. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so we're just following on there. And I've put the key points that we got from this talk over here, just as a quick reminder about the important things. But yeah, his order is really useful. So that is something that I put in my document over here as a way to link to it, just to refresh myself on it. But our own head, I mean, in some ways it violates, we were talking about before, I'm using Eleventy here, which allows you to bundle together all of these individual CSS files into one, which I'm using here. And I am using a link tag over here, which is doing that. So there is an argument that you could use this, and the Eleventy based blog actually does that. It outputs it by default as into your head. The whole CSS goes there, which is interesting, because according to Harry Roberts, you could, it could be CSS that you could put in the body in effect, but as another place to put it. So that was the main thing. So this has structured the order of things that I put in, but there were other things that we talked about in our audio episode. So I put some links up to this. So something on the favicons here.
Yeah, we talked about them being SVG-able, didn't we?
Yes, exactly. From Safari 26, which is only out in kind of towards the end of June, I think, 2025. Anyone listening to this a lot later. And because of this, I think it's a real game changer, in the sense that we can now have these SVG icons. As I understand it, I don't know if you remember, there was a conversation I was having where I wanted to link to an SVG and put prefers color scheme within that SVG, and for the browsers to honor that, so I didn't have to put that SVG in line.
Yeah.
So I could change things. I don't know if this changes that, because it was the only browser, Safari, that didn't do it. So I'm wondering whether we now have to put inline SVGs to be up to have it prefers color scheme. You had to, and maybe this is going to be a change that I haven't looked into it. But I can show you this in action. So anyway, let me just quickly go over this documentation. So let's just have a look here. So there are a few things that we obviously want to still put in here, that we've got our SVG. That's the most important now, supported up to roughly 78% at the moment, increasing, I think, as things change with Safari. We still need our favicon ICO, which of course,
fallback,
yeah, supported by everything that goes back forever. We may want to include something for Apple touchscreens, a ping on that one. I've done that, and I haven't bothered with the progressive web app link on that one at all with ours. But the light and dark is quite interesting, because this is literally the one we're using on our favicon at the moment on here. And just so I can show you it, as you can see within there, we've got in the favicon, we put a style sheet on here, and then we've got a media query changing the bars and the brackets of our icon here.
Yep.
Now, if you change our scheme here, this isn't working because there has to be a separate setup for this. This is using
Right, because that's not
attribute.
the favicon. It's not.
Yeah, it's well, this is one of the most awkward things I think about light and dark at the moment. We can't just rely on having prefers color scheme on CSS. We have to build something in separate to make that work, and we can add this in, but I haven't added it in for prefers color scheme. So
Okay.
now it's just working on other attributes. But if I go, and actually I'll leave it here, because I've got this little tool on here, which will change without me having to go into the settings.
Oh yeah, you got a little Chrome extension. Yeah, look at that.
Yes, I have. So I can see, it's working. So if I set my browser or device, you can see it's changing the colors here. So I think that's pretty cool.
That's pretty neat. Yeah.
Yeah. So our favicon, which we're using on our site, I don't know if you can see, I'm pointing over here.
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on there, but I needed to make it big so you can see that. There's a really good article actually on favicons here, but it goes into real depth about, the kind of sizes that you might want for your ICO image, and I haven't bothered with any of that because I think it's
kind of like it's some relic of the past, isn't it?
Well, hopefully it will be soon. I think we'll all be on SVG, so that makes that. So anyway, it's just some little notes there on that. Let me just go back to my head code over here.
Okay.
And the next thing that was worth talking about was the social media. I've set up a page as well for that on the intrinsic framework. And just worth mentioning this, I think, because it's quite a lot of code to have to put in. I think the simplest way, if you're just doing a brochure site, and this is what I've done on some sites, where you're not expecting much to get shared on social media, maybe your about page, really you don't need to replicate all of the options that you've got for Open Graph and Twitter, where you're asked for your description and your titles. If you don't have them, it's going to take the site's title and description and use that anyway. So the only thing that we want to probably stop is it showing the first image in the DOM or whatever image the social media decides.
That could be any random thing. Yeah,
exactly, which is inappropriate. So really, as we talked about before, you could set up one social image if you put enough, probably about 15% of a sort of border around an aspect ratio image of about 16:9,
something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of going to work for all of them. And I mean, I tend to put them, I think at the moment you need for sort of the best arrangement, you need something that's over 1200 pixels, but I just tend to use 1920 and use a WebP. It's so small it doesn't make any difference, that size difference.
They're so close. The Twitter one really just seems to shave a little bit off the top and the bottom. That's and a tiny bit off the side. The aspect ratio is such that if you just add like you said, 15% of just white space, for want of a better word, everything will be inside both of them easily.
Exactly. I think it's Facebook's the one that cuts it slightly short of it. And
I thought it was the other way around. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's that way round, and it just shaves a little bit off the bottom, so you can protect against that. But the full HTML I've put here, where you can for each of these put your own unique titles that go for each of these. Now I have, even though I've made this dynamic, I put that in our head, but it's actually didn't need to be there because it's just a repeat of what's in our default titles and description. But I guess we could add, hello Facebook user. And before them, yeah, don't we just? And then I've put in, just of interest, because this is the same code that's in the dynamic sort of nunjug stuff that I've set up for our site, which I don't know how much interest that will hold, but I'll go over to here and look at it because it's the same. And what we've done on this, and same thing could be done on the WordPress. In fact, I'm thinking of replicating this in WordPress. The whole idea of this is that
I nearly fell off my chair when I heard that.
I just thought well, it'd be probably a classic theme because
it's back.
Yes. But yeah, doing exactly the same thing. And also what I like about this, because something I was mentioning to you earlier, is that you can put all these notes in there and they're not going to be outputted into the source code. So if I go to source code, you'll see it's all tightly packed over here. But actually, if we're looking at here, I've got these gaps. So as long as in Nunjucks, we use this commented system and put a little dash by it, it takes away the space that it occupies. So we can put in as many notes as we like in our system instructions. And so I quite
It's
like
the perfect commenting system in that case. It's just
Yeah, exactly.
as much as you like, and it's never going to appear in these.
Exactly. So all my instructions, idiot, do this in your head tag is basically that's what I'm setting up, trying to set up quality control. And
mine is usually the URL where I stole the bit of code that's about to follow it. I write down the URL.
Yeah, this is basically the same, really. I'm just linking out to where other stolen code that I'm putting in there. But yeah, there's quite an interesting conditionals go on here. It may not be so much of interest, but what we have going on here is that we have something to say in here. If what we're using is the YouTube's own thumbnail, so when we finish this recording, it'll go on YouTube. We'll have a thumbnail with it. And instead of having to provide for social media, for other social media, our own image, which we have to store, I'm simply just taking the one that's already there with Google and outputting it.
So that little video ID inside the URL there becomes the video ID, and therefore that makes that URL work. It's a web image wherever that destination is. And you just need to supply the video ID, and the it drops in there like a merge tag, basically.
So the page that we're looking on, the one where we put our notes for today, at the moment, will, because of the conditionals that we've got here. So if I put in the video ID, something I've made myself, in my front matter for this page, and given it the ID, then it's going to output the content and that image over here. If I haven't done that, there is another option which we haven't actually used, but if I've got something which I've called a featured image, that could be showing, and that would also be showing on our page as well. And if not, and what's presently showing, if someone can see the show notes before we put the video, it will be showing our generic one that we use for our about and homepage.
Right. So the syntax there is you've got the video ID is the preferred way, but then you've got a fallback with your else if or elif as it's described there, which is going to be the featured image. And again, you'll set that somewhere as a possible fallback. And then if neither of those get us supply, then it just falls back to the OG image of the the entire site. Right, got it. Okay, that's really interesting. I like that.
It's quite nice to be able to sort of set these things. So of course, you can do the same thing. We were talking as well about. Let me just go back over a few things. There are a few preloads that we've put in over here. One of those actually a little bit complicated, unless you saw us setting this up before. We haven't done anything about setting up the site, but with Eleventy, if the layout is one of the posts here, and it's got the video ID, the thing that I've set up, then it will preload that image here. So it on our pages, it shows quickly. So when we go to those episodes page, that image is coming in from Google, but I want it to sort of preload as quickly as possible.
So that's an if without a fallback. That one's just if it's there, great, do something, preload it. If not, just fill up. Yeah,
exactly. And the fonts are being preloaded. That's all. The SEO. This I mentioned this in the audio that it's belt and braces really with this one. So there is a robot text file that's in there listing all of the AI that we don't want to come.
It was many. There was many.
And there's this one which I've put in as well. I don't know how effective it is, but there we are. There's that canonical. I think probably I've covered that. Is there anything else that sort of
that all seems about right, doesn't it? Yeah, no. If I'm following that through, that all seems about right. Yeah, I can't see anything that you scrolled past that you didn't mention.
Yeah, so that was it. It was just a little. Anyway, I just thought it was probably worth just showing our own site, and now I've put it public. I'll try and build little sections so people can follow along and see and take inspiration, or find, as I say, if they can find things that we can make better, then great.
Yeah, please let us know. I think that's the shortest piece of content we've ever made of any kind. We're just over 21 minutes. What the heck? Life is not normal. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So just a quick reminder, because I might as well get another minute out of this and get it up to 22 minutes. If you want to hear the podcast episode that goes with this, you can probably find it on YouTube as well. But here we go, noscript.show/23, numbers 23. And then if you want to find the links which David has just been demonstrating in this one, noscript.show/learn/1414. That's it, is it?
It is.
Okay.
I think we might take a small break. Just we might not be back because there's a few things that are happening where there's me coming over to your country, Nathan.
My country, that's right. Yeah, I very much feel the ownership of that country. It's a heavy burden. I do like to help the king out from time to time. And yeah, that'd be nice. And also, you've got nice things happening in your life as well, which maybe we'll get into at some point in an entirely different podcast series, or maybe not. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Bye. Bye.